What's up everyone, Lion Roar here, and the CELPHOS clan has arrived in Bloodline, so let's break them down. But first, download Gemstone Legends, a mobile RPG puzzle match game. Use the link in the description to start with free stuff, including a bonus hero. Alright, so I want to start out by looking at the clan trait, and of course we have the male up here. This is an epic hero, so if the rarity is higher, of course the numbers are going to be higher. I just really want to see what the trait does though, so we can talk about it and if it's worth it. It's called Enfeebling, and it says each attack reduces the target's strength by some percent. In this case it's 2.67% for 5 seconds. It stacks up to 4 layers. So that number 2.67%, it actually goes up, I want to say, above 5. If you have the mythic and you have it all the way up to like level 22. And so what that means is every time this champion attacks, like regular attack, what they're doing is knocking the target strength down by potentially up over 5%. So, you know, hit 1, 2, 3, 4, that could potentially go up to like a 20% reduction in attack for the opponent. Of course, if you have lower rarities like this one, it's not going to be quite as potent, but that's still pretty good. Now, this is the first time we've really seen a trait like this. It's interesting. It feels to me like this trait isn't super relevant right now, but could be down the road. So if there is a meta where you really need to hack away at your opponent's strength, this might be one that could be valuable. But for now, it seems like one to me you might want to stow away. I see this one shifting with time. All right, let's go actually take a look at the renowned champion list for these particular champions, because I want to see the maxed out abilities now to really answer the question. Is it worth it to put all the resources into these champions to level them up fully? So we'll just run through these abilities here and kind of talk about them a little bit. The first is Aqua Blast for the male. Throws aqua mines at 2 random enemies, which explodes on impact and deals damage equal to 480% of the caster's strength. So of course this means you're probably going to want to be putting brutal on this champion, and 480%'s a lot. Enemies who are affected in the explosion will have their skill damage reduced by 30%. So again, that's kind of interesting, especially with the trait that's on this one. If you have a meta full of high strength, you know, blaster heroes, this could potentially be very good for nulling them a little bit. Okay, all allies attacks against the affected enemies in the explosion have an 80% chance to hit. So this is worded strangely, and I feel like this is meant to be a positive thing, but the way it's worded sounds negative. So the way it sounds to me, like how it's worded, is all allies attacks against the affected enemies in the explosion have a less than 100% chance to hit. Like, okay, so now all the allies who are in this explosion radius are not getting as many hits in. But I don't think that's what functionally it's actually doing. I think they probably need to reword this or clarify this. I feel like what this is trying to say is all allies attacks against the affected enemies in the explosion have an 80% increased chance to hit. Because 80% means a 20% less chance. So 80% increased chance would be more like it. I feel like that's what it's trying to say. And if that's the case, this is actually a very, very, very good skill. So they need to clarify this and exactly what it means. And I'm sure that people have gone out already and tested this in the first few hours this was out. So if you've already tested this and have an answer to what they actually mean by this, feel free to put it in the comments for other community members. But I'm going to operate under the assumption they mean an 80% increased chance to hit. Now, what does that mean? If it actually is an 80% chance increase to hit, this is a counter to all the dodge in the meta out there right now, right? So when a champion has increased dodge, then heroes are less likely for their hits to land. So if they have an 80% increased chance to hit, what that means is they're overcoming the dodge. See how that works? I think that's what that's supposed to mean, but I think we're going to have to wait and get either official clarification from GOAT or just enough people testing it to verify that. So keep an eye out for that in the comments of this video. Despairing Cascade throws a cluster of aqua mines at the enemy's locations, which will explode in 0.5 seconds after landing. Each explosion deals damage equal to 630% of the caster's strength to all nearby targets and inflicts stunned for 1.5 seconds. This is a very, very good ability. That is a lot of damage, and stun is always good. Plus, you get that splash damage. I have a feeling the male can do an incredible amount of damage if you build him right. Obviously, you're going to want to put Brutal on this one. Okay, lastly, Hair Trigger. Normal attacks have an 80% chance to throw additional Aquamine, which attaches to the current target for 5 seconds. As long as it's attached, the target using an active skill will trigger the explosion, draining 200 energy from the target. So this is a great high damage CC type of champion, which I want to point out, up to this point in Bloodline, either champions were more on the CC side, like crowd control side, or they were more on the high damage side, and this one's kind of combining both. So I have a feeling this male is going to be very good, especially if the first ability means an 80% increased chance to hit. So we'll wait on that one. But what would I go with as far as traits on this one? You know, Focused and Agile are always ones I like to go with on this, especially because you've got stunned here, and you absolutely want to get underneath your opponent and get them stunned. We already talked about Brutal, and then like Honorable is another great one in a situation like this. There's certainly a mix of other clan traits you could go with on this one, aggressive and things like that, that I think would also be good. But that's probably at least what I would start with as far as traits. Now, the female, let's take a look at her abilities. First, Paralyzing Hurl. Throws an aqua mine at 3 random enemies, paralyzing the targets for 2 seconds. I would assume that's like stun, so of course that's pretty good. Dealing damage to them equal to 300% of the caster's strength. So this does have flavors of the male as well. It's just kind of like worded differently, but functionally it's still kind of doing the same thing. Exultant Tune blows the conch aloud, whatever that means. Increases all allies hit rate by 30%. Again, see, that's why I thought the male, I think the male is supposed to say increase hit by 80%, because this says increasing all allies hit rate by 30%. And that is really important to counter dodge in the meta. Okay, it also increases the strength by 120% for 6 seconds. So that's similar to what female Lionstone does. Now, this is not, like, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. This is not exactly like what female Lionstone does. Female Lionstone increases attack speed. This increases hit rate. Okay, that's different. Attack speed, of course, means more attacks in less time, whereas hit rate means the attacks will actually land. It's less likely for the opponent to dodge. The ultimate also inflicts weaken to the targeted enemies for 3 seconds, during which the target's damage dealt is reduced by 20%. So, where this is like female Lionstone is that increased strength by 120% for 6 seconds. Kind of counteracted, even though that percent is not as high. You do got to take note that it's weakening the target enemies for like the ultimate attacks of the enemies for 3 seconds, and you know, especially if you have these big nuke teams out there, reducing that damage by 20% could be pretty important. So now the opponent's doing less damage, your whole team's doing more damage. Very good, very good. Okay, Obscuring Ink Burst. Upon taking an attack, the caster becomes immune to damage and immune to the damage and effect. Spraying ink towards the attacker. The ink deals damage to the target and nearby enemies equal to 460% of the caster's strength, and inflicts blind for 3 seconds. Now, when I first heard that, I thought it was going to be a more powerful effect than I think it actually is, but this is what it is. Blinded targets have their hit rate reduced by 20%, cooldown 6 seconds. So in other words, what this is saying, it's like dodge. Okay, so opponents who are blinded don't hit as much, and it's reduced by 20%. I don't think it's not like super amazing, but it's like increasing the dodge a little bit. It's just on the enemies and as a negative effect instead of a positive effect on your own champions. Functionally, it's kind of the same thing. So there you have it. That's the abilities on these Boy, I'm telling you, it's hard to tell which of these is going to be better. My heart is leaning a little more towards the male right now. But there's an argument to be said for the female, too, who has shades of female Lionstone, but does very different things. And I think there's an argument to be made that like a female Lionstone would still be on your top team. But you know, the female CELPHOS could easily be on the second team, like if you don't have multiple female Lionstones, or you don't want to level multiples up or something like that. I know everybody's tired of female Lionstone. It's like one of these, you have to have it in your team, but nobody really wants to because they want new heroes. They want, you know, to put together new types of teams. So anyway, I think both are going to be very good. I think they're worth summoning for. I think that there's other champions in the meta currently that are better still. And I think it's going to be hard for these two to fit in top teams. But I do think these champions are kind of made more for sort of like late game players who really need meta pieces, who need to be able to put teams together to counteract what's going on in the meta and be able to shift around in a rock, paper, scissors type of situation. I do think for newer or mid players, if you have a lot of summoning stones available, it's worth going after these and just keeping them away. There are other champions that are probably more worth leveling at the moment for you to focus on and building really good foundational team synergy pieces. But I think especially the female could be one of them if, you know, you're trying to look for another female Lionstone type of equivalent for other teams. Again, personally, I'm leaning towards the male right now, but I honestly can't decide. I might wait on this and decide which one I'm going to go after if I go after them at all. One last thing before I end this video that's really important is if you go to your events and click on Jigsaw Collection, if you have a lot of Rangers already available, because the CELPHOS clan is a Ranger clan, then it is totally worth it to just go summon as many CELPHOS as you possibly can and then level it up to 15 stars, because you get some amazing rewards from the Jigsaw puzzle. In particular, this mask, which it increases friendly champions attack speed by 12%. This is probably the best mask in the game. And it was only available to like a top 10 in a previous contest. And now you can have it if you level up a 15-star champion. The reason I'm saying that is because that is the last and the hardest card to get. If you just level up a champion all the way to 15 stars, you're going to get all of these. I mean, you have to get the companion too, but like if you're leveling something up to 15 stars, you're probably doing the companion. But do that if you can. You get one of the best rewards in the game. So enjoy. If you like videos like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. And I will catch you in the next one.